lot of what he says is a lot of people don't do rehab they do it on two ends of the spectrum. The rehab is either too intense and then people re-injure themselves, which he said is common in professional sport, or the rehab is just dumbed down and isn't intense enough and progressive enough, so that consequently then maybe they get someone up to a certain strength score and then go out, you're right, you're fine, you're strong in the gym, but then they go out on the pitch and they re-injure themselves. So he said it's got to be more task specific.
That makes
sense. So his argument is that you can't just strengthen yourself out of an injury and then expect to go back onto the pitch where you're maybe you've got to change direction or get to top end speed and expecting that what you've done in the gym alone is enough to prepare you for that. Which makes sense.
It makes sense. It does make sense because it's task specific, isn't it? You know, like 100%. You know, and I suppose like when I have injured myself squatting or whatever, you know, it works for me, I suppose, being able to slowly reintroduce squats.
Yeah, because that's
the task.
Movement you work on, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
What's his name again?
Alan Murdoch.
Alan Murdoch. He's not like these other sprint coaches that start fucking knocking strength, is it?
No, that's the thing.
Because I'm gonna have a problem otherwise.
I know that does seem.
See, that's the difference, right? You just told me something there that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, yeah, it makes sense. But what I'm not doing then is like tearing it down and saying, oh, you know, it's not effective or it doesn't work. Like the shoes on the other foot, all these sprint coaches at the moment out there saying, oh, you do not need to train maximal strength. It's like, what? You know?
Well, you don't. You don't.
James has been converted.
No, I think it's nonsense, isn't it? Because you still need that ability to produce high amounts of force, don't you? Otherwise, you're going nowhere fast.
Yeah, because obviously, I'm not going to name any names, but you know, I had a bit of an issue the other day with a post that I saw, and it was like, what was it? It was like Simone Biles in the caption or something.
I don't remember what the post said, but yeah, I know. Yeah,
and it was like, maximal strength is a poor indicator of. What was it? Maximal strength is a poor indicator. I'll have to try and find it. Basically, the whole argument was that as an athlete, you don't really need to train your maximal strength. And it's just so confusing for people out there, isn't it? It's like, no, it's a tool. You know what I mean? Like, and that tool happens to benefit all of us. And whether you're an athlete or you're Mrs. Jones with 3 kids, working a 9 till 5, like it benefits everybody. And the reason that it benefits everybody is because we all interact with our environment via force production, all of us. And because of that simple fact, it doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah.
If you have a greater baseline of force production, you can take that general ability and apply it specifically, as you're on about there, you know, to your sport, right? And start practicing more of those speed stuff. But saying that there's no utility in it, it's like, it's like, what? You know, it's just silly, you know.
It's just to the ends of the spectrum, isn't it? So you've got someone maybe saying that, but then equally, if you've got someone who is, let's say like myself, who is geared more just wanting to drive up their speed as much as possible, and football is my sport, then spending all of my training time and resources in the gym wouldn't be the best setup either.
Definitely. I think I am a big believer in that depending on who you are, you can afford to start more general and become more specific the more you kind of mature then as an athlete. I do believe in that. Have you read Science and Practice of Strength Training? Have you read that by what's his name? I can never pronounce their names, these Russian dudes. Zatsiorsky, is it? Zatsiorsky or something like that. Great book anyway.
Yeah.
Really, really good. And it's something that he talks about, you know, how bringing up, for instance, your maximal strength as when you are someone who's very, very novel to the stimulus, that positively affects all other strength abilities in of itself, right?
Yeah.
But the more advanced you become, the less actual that's going to carry over to those abilities, right? So I think he uses the example of a shot putter, for instance. You know, a shot putter that has gone from 100 kilogram bench to, say, 180 kilogram bench, that's going to positively affect him in a much greater way than compared to, say, him going from a 180 to a 200, right? So I think a lot of the time, sometimes people lose or miss the forest for the trees with it. But again, there's no harm in looking at these people and going like, right, yeah, I want to improve my sprint technique. But I think you should look at them as different things almost. They should, you know, if you get me.
Yeah.
You know, again, a sprint skills coach, for instance, I think, you know, that could be a valuable thing for sure. Now, of course, I'm biased, and I would say that probably maximal strength.
Get under the barbell.
And that's probably largely down to my bias. And I also think as well that I do believe that, you know, in my opinion, the accessibility of finding a really good strength coach that can teach you those stuff, I think is a lot more common as well. It's the barrier to entry, I think, with it. I'm saying that you can go onto a pitch, can't you, and just start sprinting, I suppose, you know?
Yeah, again, I suppose the difference, people make mistakes with that. Just like someone going in the gym and loading the bar up too much. People make mistakes by going on the pitch and then...
Just sprinting like I did.
Just not ready for it, not prepared for it. So, have you done any sprints since then?
I haven't, no. I haven't. I do want to look into more of that stuff for sure, you know, but... well, you know, I'm writing this book at the moment, you know, and I'm looking at all these different things and how to map it out and how to plan it. So yeah, I'm researching all of that stuff at the moment. But
it'd be interesting to see what you could get your meters per second up to with your sprints. You know,
I'm not just saying I was pretty fast.
Yeah, you said you're rapid. Yeah,
yeah. But I was playing rugby, like I was pretty quick. Like for an open side, you know, well, in general, really. I think I got the beating of you, you know.
Okay.
The fury just lighted up inside.
Were you more
the gym.
Acceleration or top end speed?
I wouldn't even know, mate. I was like a banshee running. Do you know what I mean?
What do you mean?
Like, there was not much technique going on. I was just, I suppose,
but it's natural, isn't it? That's the same. But that's the same as like anyone who's like quick. You're not really. It's just natural, isn't it? It's just instinctive. And then unless you get someone to iron out faults in your technique,
definitely. But how what's the argument then for kind of like, okay, say you've learnt all this sprint stuff, but obviously in a football game there's a lot more stuff going on, right?
Yeah, it's like, a chaotic situation.
It's chaotic situation.
Yeah.
So what's their argument then for, like, how can you maintain that perfect sprint technique?
So you're not training. So you're not training like a games athlete, so someone who plays on the pitch like a sprinter.
Right. Okay.
So like if you've got a sprinter and their job is just to run as fast as possible in a straight line for 100 meters or whatever, it's entirely different, because if you look at like just how they set up their drive phase and everything like that, and then how they transition into top end speed and then maintain it. A football player is never covering that distance in a sprint. But I think it's more ingraining the good technique that you need, that you can do, and then practice that, repeat it in your training sessions at lower intensity, and then over time that will just become like natural and habit.
Right, I see. So you can't really account for that when you're learning this stuff, but what you're saying is that over time of practicing it, it'll kind of have a positive impact.
Yeah,
then.
Exactly. It's just like, for example, myself found out I'm over rotating on my left side. Yeah. So a drill you use was pull the pocket out on shorts and ensure that you're making contact on each arm swing.
Right. Okay.
And that prevents you then from coming across the body, which was obviously bringing my hip in as well.
Right. Okay.
And then that obviously affects further down the chain, because the hip was coming across. I was over rotating on that side and not getting enough extension, which was reducing my power. So obviously, when you're playing a game, you're not going to be thinking, "Oh, I know, I need to." Because it's just not you're thinking about the ball and everything else, players around you, position you're in. But if you practice that enough, in your training sessions, then that should just become a part of your natural technique.
Yeah, because that's because I've read Periodization by Bumper as well. That's another great book.
Tudor Bumper, yeah.
Bumper and Half, and that talks about planning of training, right? Obviously for athletes as well, and looking at all these different biomotor abilities and how to periodize them properly, and that's something that I'm looking at now. And so I'll take a look. I'm going to take a look into all that sort of stuff as well, for sure. Because I've got a couple of guys now, like they're making really good progress in the gym, and they've noticed as well, like their maximal strength now is coming up, and they're coming up to like some good standards. And now I'm already thinking of, right, okay, once they're at these standards, then I'm going to start like introducing some other concepts to them, and
so obviously you're building the horsepower in the engine.
Yes.
And that's what he says, that also you need to look at the movement capacity and movement ability as well.
Yeah.
So that you've got the power there, but you need to be able to move properly with it.
Yeah. And so that's something I've said to them I'm going to look at as well and introduce in pretty soon. So yeah, mate, I'll have to check all that stuff out. Definitely, you'll be getting me down the pitch now doing fucking sprints and all.
I can imagine you're probably very much like anterior driven, aren't you, with quads?
Yeah, probably. I'd imagine. I think because I did. The one thing I'm concerned about is my hamstring, because I've torn my hamstring a couple of times.
That's the problem. Once you tear it, you're
and that's the issue.
Yeah,
right. It's the risk to reward. Like, I'm happy to go through some general stuff.
Yeah, but you could do that and just not go
full pelt.
Yeah, because this is what I was discussing. Like for me at the moment, I'm all right going up to like 80%, and I feel if I push beyond that, it feels like the danger zone.
Yes.
So when I was away last week, did accelerations and then did some longer tempo sprints, but I was like keeping it to like 80%, because as soon as I'd just go like anywhere near above that, I could just feel something, and I was like, yeah, it's not worth it.
No.
Until my hamstring feels 100%, I'm not. Yeah, just gonna let it rip.
Yeah. So I obviously with the powerlifting and stuff, if I tear my hamstring sprinting,
you're done for. You could be up for like 3 months, couldn't you?
Yeah, deadlift out, all of that.
So what you could do is, if you want, you could work. You could just set a short distance, because you're more likely to pull the hamstring getting up to top speed.
Right.
So if you like worked on like accelerations, very short accelerations, you're probably not going to have a problem there. And then if you're doing longer stuff, just keep it sub-maximal.
Right, okay.
Because that way you can also, if you wanted to learn, like look at your sprint technique, you're not going flat out when you're trying to learn that stuff.
Right.
So like you could load it up with a sled, and that's safer as well, because you naturally can't go, you're not going to pull a hamstring whilst you're pulling a sled, because it naturally slows you down.
I mean, it is really interesting. Really interesting.
No, it's never. No one bothers me about it anymore. And I think it's more commonplace accepted now.
It is. Oh, mate, so many people don't drink. Because I was obviously I wanted to talk to you about that actually, because I saw your it was your post. When did you prep? I think it may have been today. Was it? You had your testosterone
my blood test results. Yeah.
I thought we talk about that, because you brought up some interesting points of like what you do to stay kind of like relatively healthy, and you obviously, I think, is a big thing at the moment about testosterone, and
yeah, I know. I mean, obviously you see, there are certain people on their posts like bang about having skyrocketing your testosterone with supplements and stuff, which is fine. I don't know, but just doing normal everyday stuff that is accessible to anyone.
I thought that was a really good one, because there's certain things in there I think that will apply to a lot of people. And I think one of the big ones that triggered, the conversation would be alcohol. Because obviously in the UK, man, we just slam it down us.
I think the UK is potentially the worst for it. I don't
think
know.
it
When
is.
I go abroad, obviously I go to Portugal a lot. I don't know. I don't see Portuguese people slamming down the alcohol. And I don't know, Brits abroad are just, we're in a hot country, we're on holiday, we need to get smashed. I don't know. That's just and it's almost like drink all day culture.
It's crazy, mate. Honestly, like when I went, I said before on this podcast, when I went to Australia, and I couldn't believe the reception I had from people when I said I didn't drink, because I was used to people looking at me like I had three heads, you know, and they were like, "Oh yeah, right, yeah, you know, not an issue." But we're so conditioned to it here in the UK. You know, it's commonplace for people to sink 2-3 bottles of wine a weekend.
Yeah.
You know, whereas I think in other countries, I'm not I don't know, obviously, but I don't think that's a thing.
No,
you
no,
know?
yeah.
Like, and of course, like, you know, you have people that, you know, are banging on about like, oh, you know, there's all these issues, right, as to why, you know, my health is down the drain, and oh, it's because I have I don't know, maybe like, well, what's the common ones, right? Like I eat carbohydrates and it's causing inflammation and, you know, all this bullshit. Yet they're, you know, sinking back 4 bottles of wine a weekend. And it's like, well,
Oh, that's the real damaging thing.
that's the damaging thing for your health. What was your, because like, firstly, I thought it'd be cool for people to listen to almost our stance on alcohol. So I'll open up with mine, and then maybe you could talk about yours. So I've personally decided to, it's when I was about 20, I completely give up drink. I just decided to. It wasn't like a conscious decision on my part. Like, it wasn't that I was like, woke up one morning and I was like, right, I'm just going to stop drinking now. It was just one night. I went out with my mates. It was down in Bristol. I went to a club, and I realised, actually, I don't fancy drinking tonight. Like, I don't want to. And I remember waking up the next day and I just felt brilliant. I was like, right, I can crack on my day. I feel productive. And so it just kind of carried on that way for me.
Yeah.
And like 6 years later, we're chatting, and I still haven't drank
Had a
since
drink
then.
at all. Yeah.
So it wasn't like a conscious thing. It just kind of happened. But yeah, I suppose, you know, I don't drink now.
You don't miss it, do you?
I don't miss it. But at the same time, and this is where, you know, personally, I've got to catch myself. I want to leave room for flexibility in the future as well. Because if I want to one day, then, you know, I will go back to it. But maybe it's, you know, minimal drinking, like you, I suppose, and, you know, just a few drinks and nothing like really infrequent, you know. So I'm also open-minded in that sense. Like right now, I don't drink. I don't intend to drink in the future, but at the same time, if I ever want to, then I will.
It's not a
you know,
closed
it's
door,
not a closed door. I got to catch myself with that, with my OCD, you know, because
Well, you could be too strict on it.
I can be too strict on it, and almost be like, if I want to, my OCD tendencies, which like certainty, will go, no, you can't.
Yeah, I can completely relate to that.
Can you?
Oh yeah, good God, yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like if I set something that I'm not going to do, then it's like, I don't know. I suppose it's good in some ways, but I've got like iron discipline. If I say I'm not going to do something, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, we're very similar like that, me and you. Yeah.
I used to get, you know, back years ago when I used to be like too obsessed about my diet, I would go to restaurants and I would not, it sounds absolutely crazy, but I'd be like, all right, there's nothing on the menu for me, so I won't eat. I'll just have a Diet Coke and be like, oh, have this. No, I won't have anything. I'm sitting there freaking hungry, but I won't have anything.
I just imagine you sat there just staring at the food.
Doing that, yeah. I think I made other people uncomfortable, but at the time I didn't give a shit. It was just like, no, I want to do this. And likewise, I've around the same time, I would sit there and, yeah, I've been with my family and they've all been having, let's just say, I don't know, Chinese takeaway. And I'll go down and pick it up. And then I would sit there with my sweet potato, salad, and whatever else.
So obviously we're both very similar. That's probably why we get along so well, because we're so common, like we're so much in common like that. But you know, both of us, I think it like sometimes when we come into these conversations, I also want to give some of my downfalls with it as well,
100%.
because I'll be honest, that there is I want to say a weakness in my personality. It's not, right. There's a lot of strengths that come with it, but there's certainly a blind spot for me where everything's a double-edged sword, and I can easily fall into that trap. So I have to be very intentional with myself of, look, this is how you feel right now, that's fine, but do not close the door. Like, if you want to return to it and you go out and you fancy a drink, then have some. Like, don't be that guy. So that's kind of my stance on it. And right now I'm teetotal. But yeah, what's yours anyway? Is it similar to mine, or
So I've never never ever enjoyed the taste of beer, wine, you name it, really. So I would never drink year round in the UK.
Are you completely teetotal then?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. If I occasionally at Christmas time, I'll have a coffee, and I like Bailey's Irish cream in there,
right?
And that tastes quite nice. But so I think it was 2 years ago I did this at Christmas time, and it was like Christmas Day. I think I was my sister was having a coffee and she had Bailey's in there, and I was like, oh, go on, I'll try one. That was nice. What happened was, I was doing that every morning, and then Christmas came to an end, back to normal, just work and everything. And it got to I don't know, one day, let's say it was a Wednesday, and I trained that day, so I wasn't doing anything, and just sitting there doing my work. I thought, I'll have another coffee now. And I thought, I'll have Bailey's in there. And I thought, fuck, hold on, James, it's like Wednesday and it's like 1:30. You're having a second coffee and you're lacing it with alcohol. I was like, this is a slippery slope, so that had to stop.
Why? Is it because of your personality, do you think?
Yeah,
I'm obsessive almost?
No, it's not obsessive. I'm not going to turn into an alcoholic. But I was like, I can't be one of those people who's drinking in the middle of the day
Bailey's,
in a working week.
James McCarthy,
even though it's not
weakness,
doing anything
Bailey's.
to my consciousness. Just like, I just felt like ashamed, so I just stopped it. Right. But yeah, so I never used to drink alcohol year round, and then I'd go on holidays every summer with friends. And to improve, not to improve, but to feel less, I guess, self-conscious when I was out, more comfortable, more confident, whatever, I would drink and get hammered. But I would pretty much mostly do this with shots, just because I didn't like the taste of alcohol. So I'd have a few alcoholic drinks, and then it'd be literally shots of absinthe, which is just obscene.
Yeah, I've tried that once before. So
I used to get hammered. And I would do that for a few nights on holiday, come back, probably wouldn't drink then until the following July, August, just because I never enjoyed it. And then, I can remember, I think the last time I did that was at my sister's 30th birthday. Me and 4 or 5 friends, again, hammered down a load of shots of absinthe. And I can remember the next day sitting there watching football, and it was the final day of the championship. And just remember sitting there watching this football, and it got to about 5-6 o'clock until I could eat. It just felt like something was just stuck in my stomach, and I was like, I'm never feeling like this again. It's horrible.
So for you, it's more of a conscious thing.
Yeah, so I just I was literally drinking then. Nobody drinks shots of absinthe because they're like, oh, that's a lovely flavour. I feel it's really enjoyable. You do it just to get smashed, I guess. And I was like, this is pointless. So yeah, just stop drinking. And don't get me wrong, I've probably had a few drinks since then. Like I said, if you put I guess, I don't know, some kind of nice coffee liqueur in with a Diet Coke in a warm country, I could sit there and enjoy that,
Right, yeah.
Like when we were down at the beach bar in Portugal back in, was it June or something?
Oh, yeah.
I could have sat there and had something that tastes nice.
Yeah.
But that's just to relax.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm not I don't need a drink to relax. So again, I'm like you, it's not set in stone. If I wanted to have a drink, I'll have a drink. Sometimes at Christmas I might have a liqueur coffee. Yeah. But I'm certainly not someone who ever looks for it. And
so basically, is the same. Right now you're teetotal.
Yeah.
But if it comes about and you fancy it, you're also not closed off to it.
You're just never going to see me necking back shots of absinthe or anything like that. It's just pointless.
So you're never going to get smashed, basically. No. Yeah. No, it's interesting. It's interesting because I think it's important for people to kind of where our heads at with it as well, and it's refreshing. I mean, I know so many people. Well, maybe not so many people, but I've had people that have said to me, "Oh, I wish I could do that, but I feel pressured by my social group,
Mm.
so that I can't do that. And it's like, well, maybe if we have more of these conversations, the people can maybe take more of, a minimalist approach then, to alcohol.
It's just, I get where people come from with that. But then for me, I don't know, I guess it's because it's like, it's my job, what I work in and everything. If someone questions like, oh my God, you're boring, you're always eating like healthy, or God, you're training when you're on holidays, or you're working out over Christmas. And like, I couldn't give a shit, literally couldn't give a flying shit what someone thinks about what I do that maintains my health, because that's what's important to me. Whereas other things, I'm far more self-conscious with. If someone like said, oh, I don't think that's right, that would like make me question myself. But when it comes to my health and fitness and what I do or don't do, I don't.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
I've got it locked down.
It's a sign of there's a level of admiration for that, because it is a sign of a strong character, and
in that respect. Don't get me wrong, there's other areas in my life, I would not be the same. But when it comes to like things I do that look after my health, my fitness, then no, you can question me all you want, and I'm disciplined with it.
Yeah, and a common misconception, because I've heard this from people before, is like, red wine, like a glass of red wine a week or whatever is actually good for you. I don't know if you've heard this.
Yeah,
you see it in like the Sunday Times and stuff like that.
I know, it's just
but there is no healthy dose of alcohol.
No,
right?
there isn't. No, and I think that just comes from studies done on the Mediterranean diet, and that they may consume low amounts of alcohol, and within that is maybe red wine. And I think they're just pulling from that, but they're not taking into consideration all the other health-seeking aspects of that lifestyle,
right?
Like low stress, living in good sunlight, consuming lots of monounsaturated fats, low processed diet, and all those other things. The person saying to you, they're drinking red wine, and they're like, well, red wine is healthy. It's like, yeah, but look at the other areas of your life. Are they also health seeking? So that it's, because it's a whole spectrum, isn't it? It's not just one isolated thing.
Well, it's the same it's almost the opposite to the red meat thing, isn't it? Where people say red meat is bad for you.
Yeah.
But then obviously it's not that sole factor why maybe people have a higher tendency wherever to have more cardiovascular diseases if they eat red meat, is because of all the other lifestyle factors that come along with maybe that subset of the population, carry on.
Yeah, I mean, that was my point on the blood tests. Do you want to discuss that or not? Or,
yeah, crack on.
Yeah, I mean, so that like the alcohol thing isn't a big, like there are plenty of people that would be fine, and you can have a couple of drinks a week. Yeah. I think from what I'm aware, if you're more of a frequent drinker, if you're drinking more than like, I don't know, I think somewhere like 8-9 drinks a week, that can obviously have an impact then on your hormonal levels and things.
Right.
So for me, that's just one of the health seeking actions that I take, just because I don't enjoy it.
Yeah. What would your advice be then? Say like someone's sinking down, I don't know, like maybe I don't even know how the units work, so I'm not even going to go there.
Yeah.
But let's say they go in through an average, I don't know, of like 3-4 bottles of wine a week, like as a minimum. Like, what would your advice be to someone maybe who is open to the idea of maybe reducing that? What would be some of the health advantages that they would get from reducing their intake?
Well, there's a few things straight away. Obviously, your alcohol coming out of your body, so that's like alcohol straight away impacts your sleep. You're consuming, if you're drinking that amount, you're consuming an absolute ton of like non-nutritive calories. Like they're not providing you with anything. Potentially, what else? If you're someone who exercises, works out, plays a sport, it's impacting your recovery, impacting your performance the following day after drinking. Lots of things really. Probably off the top of my head, that's what I can think of.
Yeah. And again, it's not to say like, completely, you may not go to the extreme that me and you have, right? Like for us, it literally is just a case of we don't really enjoy her anyway, like we said, so it's bit of a no-brainer for us to kind of give her up.
Yeah.
Not give her up, but maybe like don't
Just not drink,
Just
yeah.
not drink. But you know, if you do enjoy, it's not to say that you can't drink. It may just be a case of like, yeah, start thinking a little bit more about your long-term health. You know, especially in the UK, it's like it's a massive culture thing, and it is cool now, as you said, like before we started this, like how you've started to notice less pressure from peers and friends and stuff. You know, when you go out, I certainly have as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's it. Anything else you want to add
No, I don't
to all
think
of
so.
that? No? Should we take some questions?
Yeah.
What's new this week? So, first one coming in on what's new this week. Let's pull them up. Okay. What's the one thing you wish you had known when you started working out?
I'd probably say for me, it would be that working out has like unlimited benefits way beyond how you look.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going to go. But you carry on. You hey, you just stole a mine, but no worries.
I just not for me. My first, I guess, working out was I remember having a set of dumbbells from Argos and having a chin-up bar, and all I wanted was like, yeah, do bicep curls and I don't know, have a physique like some like I don't know, boxer or movie star or
It's
something.
the one off Never Back Down called.
Cam Gigonde. That was later.
That was later in
Yeah.
your maturity.
Yeah.
Right, I see.
Because that's still a good physique. That's still a physique I liked. So I have no shame in that. But yeah, literally, I thought I bought dumbbells and all. I can remember literally, at the time I didn't know it, but it's actually quite smart. Well, I say quite smart. I would wrap elastic bands around my forearm and then higher up just under my shoulder and just literally pump tons of bicep curls until like the vascularity looked like my arms were like the blood was about to pump out of my arms.
Was there any like hardcore tracks playing in the background as you were doing that? I can just imagine like
Probably just me looking at myself in the mirror, which is
Right, I
absolutely
see.
cringe. But yeah,
imagine like AC/DC.
so all I was doing was blood flow restriction training. But oh yeah, all I was like, God, look at the vascularity I'm getting from this. So yeah, for me, working out was just like, yeah, trying to get arms and all that, which is quite cringe now that I don't give a shit and I don't exactly have like jacked arms. So.
I'd give up my car to be able to be a fly on the wall to see that,
Yeah.
just to hear the grunts and the echoes from the room as you're just doing occlusion training, just going nuts.
I was probably about 13 at the time or something like that. With
Well,
those York dumbbells, you got.
Do you know what I used to do? I think I may have told you this. I used to get a deck of cards and I used to go, like flip the first card. So I was into C.T. Fletcher at the time, right? Have you ever heard of C.T.
Yeah, I know
Fletcher?
that, yeah.
Yeah. He's, oh, mate. Anyway, I think he's like died 5 times and come back to life. Like the guy's a machine, honestly. He's just, anyway, like besides the point, he would flip over the top card and you would have to times by 3 the amount of press-ups or sit-ups or squats you would have to do.
Yeah.
So I'd flip over the first one, 7, right? So that means 21 squats. So I'd bang out 21 squats. Next one, right, 4 times by 3, 12. Right, now I need to do 12 push-ups. And I keep going and going. And then the face cards would be 10. So I would literally go through the entire pack of
The
cards.
whole deck of cards.
The whole deck of
Christ.
cards.
Yeah, that's a hell of a workout.
Oh, mate. By the end, honestly, I remember the first time I did it, the next day, I was so sore. Like, I could barely get up the steps because I did the equivalent of like 1,000 air squats, probably. I was just like done. I was completely done.
That's like an insanity workout, isn't it? Sounds something like that.
Well, yeah. Basically. But yeah, you know, what you were saying, and obviously I was joking there, but about you took mine. But yeah, I think everybody... they who really cares about this, they keep doing it for more than just the appearance, right? And we've talked about like, yeah, of course we all care about how we look. All of us do. But the reason that it keeps us coming back for more is that you know we kind of have an avenue and a path to progress.
Yeah.
I think I could not imagine just feeling stuck and stagnant. Like even the days where I've had it maybe, I don't know, maybe one or two times
Mm.
in the last, if I'm being honest, in the last, say, 10 years,
Yeah.
where I've planned to train and I haven't, right? Probably one time, maybe twice.
Mm.
And I felt like shit that day.
Yep.
I just felt like shit. I was like, what the fuck? Like, is this what you're settling for now?
Mm.
You're just going to be this guy? Like, who's just, you know, if you can't prioritize you, then how are you supposed to be able to be a high functioning human being
Mm.
that can, you know, do all the other aspects of your life? Like, no, you need to keep putting yourself first. I remember thinking that, like, you need to keep putting yourself first, because if you're not happy, how are you going to be productive?
Yeah.
And be your best self elsewhere? And I'm lucky, you know, I suppose I just think of it now as something that I just constantly have this thing in my life where I can turn up to, and even on a really bad day, whether that's personal stuff going on or, you know, whether, you know, that's professional stuff with my business, I can leave that, go into the gym, you know, make a bit of progress, leave all of that at the door, and I always come out feeling better for it, you know. And for me, it that's the reason that I do it primarily, you know, is that I have something that I can always progress with. And I think the moment that you lose that, that's the moment you're doing yourself a massive disservice in your life, a massive one, you know. But yeah, mate, really resonate with that for sure. What's the time? 25 to 2. What time did we?
About 12:45, 10 to 1 we started, I think.
Oh, of course, I thought then that was nearly 2 hours gone. So
No.
10. So 12:30, 1:30. Oh, right, yeah, it's come up to an hour we've done. Shall we
And that one, is it?
end that one there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay then. So let's call that one there. Do you want to do the outro?
Okay. So, guys, if you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave a rating and review and subscribe. Boom.
Good job, mate.